Deep in the heart of the jungle lived Ellie the elephant. Ellie was a gentle giant with a heart as big as her floppy ears. One day, while strolling through the tall grasses, Ellie came across something unusual. A small house made out of a hollowed-out log. Curiosity got the better of her, and she poked her trunk through a hole in the log to take a peek inside. "Hello," Ellie called out tentatively. "Is anyone home?" A loud voice echoed from within the log cabin. "Who's there?" "Who's asking?" Ellie was taken aback by the booming voice coming from such a tiny abode. "It's just me, Ellie the elephant," she said softly. "I didn't mean to intrude. I just saw your house and thought it was so unique." "Oh, come in, the voice exclaimed. "I'd love to have a chat. I'm tired of being cooped up in this log all day." Ellie cautiously approached the log cabin and gently pushed the door open with her trunk. She stepped inside and found a small, dimly lit room with a rickety table and a chair, and perched on the edge of the table was a parrot. The parrot was unusually large with bright blue feathers and an even brighter beak. He wore a small monocle over his right eye, giving him an air of sophistication that clashed with his otherwise messy appearance. "I say, you must be Ellie the elephant," the parrot said, fixing his gaze on her. "I've been expecting you." Ellie was puzzled. "Expecting me? How could you possibly know who I am?" The parrot hopped off the table and strutted towards her, his tail feathers trailing behind him like a luxurious cape. "My dear Ellie," he said, his voice dripping with faux sweetness, "I know everything that goes on in this jungle. I have my ways." Before Ellie could respond, the parrot swooped down and landed on her trunk. "Now then, what brings you to my humble abode?" he asked, tilting his head inquisitively. Ellie hesitated for a moment, unsure how to respond to the parrot's cryptic words. Finally, she decided to be honest. "To be frank, I stumbled upon your house while walking through the jungle. I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like inside." The parrot ruffled his feathers and let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "So you are just another curious elephant with a penchant for prying into other people's business," he said, shaking his head disapprovingly. "Tell me, do you have any respect for your elders?" Ellie felt a flush of embarrassment creep up her trunk. She realized that she had been rude and insensitive by barging into the parrot's house without any warning. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I didn't mean to offend you. I'll leave you alone if you want me to." The parrot hopped back onto the table and fixed his monocle, seemingly mollified by Ellie's apology. "Very well, I forgive you," he said magnanimously, "but perhaps you can do me a favor in return." Ellie's ears perked up. "Of course," she said eagerly. "What can I do for you?" "It's quite simple, really," the parrot said with a flourish. "All I ask is that you bring me some fresh fruit from the market at the edge of the jungle. I'm absolutely famished, and the thought of those juicy mangoes is enough to make my beak water." Ellie was more than happy to help out the parrot. She had a soft spot for animals in need, and the parrot's charming, albeit slightly irritating, demeanor had grown on her. "Well, I was 6 then, so of course I'll bring you some fruit," she said with a smile. No, just the fruit will do," the parrot said. "I wouldn't want to impose on your generosity." Ellie took this as her cue to leave. She bid farewell to the parrot and set off towards the market. As Ellie ambled through the jungle, she couldn't shake off the feeling that she had just stumbled into the first chapter of one of those wild animal adventures that she loved hearing about. She found it amusing to think that she might be living out her own story, albeit in a much more mundane way. The thought brought a smile to her face as she continued on her way. Upon reaching the market, Ellie was greeted by a riot of colors and sounds. Stalls overflowed with exotic fruits, vibrant flowers, and chattering monkeys. Ellie meandered through the bustling crowd, searching for the perfect fruit to please her new parrot friend. She picked out a bunch of ripe mangoes, their golden flesh glistening enticingly beneath their thin skin. She also grabbed a handful of sweet-smelling passion fruits and a few juicy watermelons for good measure. Satisfied with her haul, Ellie turned to leave when suddenly she bumped into someone. Startled, Ellie looked down to see a small frog sitting on her foot. The frog was adorned with emerald green skin and golden spots, but what truly caught Ellie's attention were the frog's bulging eyes, which seemed to sparkle with intelligence. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Ellie exclaimed, bending down to get a closer look at the frog. "I didn't see you there. Are you hurt?" The frog blinked slowly, seeming unfazed by his close encounter with the giant elephant. "Not at all," he croaked in a surprisingly deep voice. "In fact, I must say it's rather refreshing to be addressed with such kindness. Most creatures simply step on me without a second thought." Ellie felt a pang of sympathy for the frog. She understood what it was like to be underestimated because of her size. "I'll keep that in mind," she promised. "And if there's anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to ask." The frog regarded her for a moment, his eyes gleaming with an almost otherworldly wisdom. "That's very kind of you, Ellie the elephant. And since you seem like an animal of great compassion, I believe you can help me with something." Ellie's ears perked up. "Of course," she said eagerly. "What can I do for you?" The frog hopped off her foot and onto the ground. "You see, I have a friend who needs your assistance. He's not very good with directions and has a tendency to wander into the most inconvenient places." Ellie couldn't help but smile at the frog's cryptic words. She had a feeling that she knew exactly who he was talking about. "Is this about the parrot who lives in the log cabin?" she asked. The frog's eyes widened in surprise. "How did you know?" he exclaimed. "Did he send you here?" Ellie chuckled. "Not at all," she said. "I found my way here all by myself. It seems we both have a knack for getting lost in the jungle." The frog nodded knowingly. "Indeed. Well, if you're willing to help my friend, all I ask in return is that you bring him a message." "What message?" Ellie inquired. The frog leaned closer and whispered something in her ear. Ellie's eyes widened in understanding. So that was what the parrot's cryptic words and strange requests had been about. He wanted to see Ellie again, not just for the fruit, but to seek help in finding his way back home. The frog hopped onto her foot and croaked loudly. "Thank you, Ellie the elephant, for your kindness. I know my friend will be eternally grateful." Ellie smiled warmly at the frog and gently picked him up with her trunk. She carried him back to the parrot's house, where she left him on the doorstep before returning to the market to finish her shopping. When Ellie returned to the parrot's house with the fruit, she noticed a change in his demeanor. He was pacing anxiously inside his log cabin, his feathers ruffled and his usual composure gone. Alarmed by the parrot's agitated state, Ellie called out to him, "Are you all right? You seem distressed." The parrot jumped off the table and rushed to the door, his eyes wide with panic. "Oh, Ellie, thank goodness you're back," he exclaimed. "I need your help urgently." Before Ellie could ask any questions, the parrot stepped outside the log cabin and hopped onto her trunk. "Please take me with you wherever you're going," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I need to get home, but I've forgotten the way." Overwhelmed with surprise, Ellie stammered, You want me to take you home? But I don't know where you live." The parrot closed his eyes in frustration, realizing the gravity of his predicament. "I've made a terrible mistake," he sighed. "I allowed my anger and loneliness to get the better of me, and now I can't find my way back to the flock." Ellie felt a surge of empathy for the parrot. She understood what it was like to feel lost and alone, and she was determined to help him find his way back home. "Don't worry, Polly," she said with a gentle smile. "I may not know where you live, but I'm sure we can find someone who does. Just relax and trust me." The parrot snuggled closer to Ellie, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. He had been so focused on his anger and despair that he hadn't considered reaching out for help. But Ellie's kindness and unwavering support had given him hope that everything would be all right. As Ellie walked through the jungle, she kept a sharp lookout for any familiar landmarks or animals that might be able to help them. She remembered the frog mentioning something about the parrot needing to get home before sunset. Time was ticking, and Ellie was determined to make it happen. After walking for a while, Ellie came across a clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood a majestic waterfall, its cascading waters creating a soothing melody. Ellie knew that this place held a special significance in the jungle, and she hoped that it might hold a key to finding the parrot's home. Just as Ellie reached the waterfall, she heard a familiar croaking sound. The little frog from the market was sitting on a nearby rock, observing them with his usual stoic expression. Ellie," he greeted her with a hint of amusement in his voice. "I see you brought the fruit." "Actually, I was hoping you could help us," Ellie replied. "We're looking for a way to reach the parrot's flock. Do you know the way?" The frog blinked slowly, as if considering the question. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "Follow me," he said, turning and disappearing into the foliage. Ellie, along with the parrot perched on her trunk, followed the frog deeper into the jungle. The path was narrow and winding, and Ellie had to carefully navigate through the thick undergrowth. She could sense the parrot's nervousness growing with each passing moment, and she tried her best to reassure him. Finally, the foliage began to thin, revealing a sight that took their breath away. Before them lay a vast expanse of land dotted with trees laden with colorful fruits and flowers. In the center of the clearing stood a magnificent tree with feathers of all shapes, sizes, and hues adorning its branches. The parrot's flock had made their home in this very tree. Overjoyed, the parrot let out a loud screech and swooped down towards his feathered companions. He was welcomed with joyous squawks and excited chatter as the other parrots shared the latest news and gossip. Ellie watched with a smile as the parrot reunited with his flock. She had never witnessed such genuine camaraderie and warmth among a group of animals. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the clearing, Ellie knew it was time to say goodbye. The frog hopped onto her trunk and croaked loudly. "Well done, Ellie the elephant. You have brought the parrot home." "It was my pleasure." "Really?" Ellie replied with a warm smile. "I'm just glad I could help." The parrot, now rejuvenated and surrounded by his friends, approached Ellie and extended his wing towards her. "Thank you, Ellie," he said sincerely. "You have no idea how much this means to me. Not only did you help me find my way home, but you reminded me of the importance of friendship and kindness." Touched by the parrot's words, Ellie felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. She realized that true happiness came not from size or strength, but from the connections she made along the way. As Ellie made her way back to the familiar path, she couldn't help but reflect on the day's events. She had stumbled upon a talking parrot, made friends with a wise frog, and helped reunite a lost bird with its flock. It had been an extraordinary adventure, and she felt a sense of pride knowing that she had made a difference in the lives of those around her. From that day forward, Ellie the elephant carried the parrot's words close to her heart. She never forgot that friends helped you find your way, not just home, but in your heart too.